At the time, horse theft was a capital offense, and given Turpin's violent history, there was no doubt that he would face severe punishment if convicted. While in York Castle, Turpin wrote a letter to his brother-in-law, Pompey Rivenall, but Rivenall, seeing the York postmark, refused to pay for the delivery, possibly distancing himself from Turpin's criminal activities. However, fate had other plans. James Smith, an old schoolmate of Turpin, recognized his handwriting and alerted the authorities. The letter was opened, and Turpin's identity was confirmed. With Turpin's identity confirmed, a reward of £200, around £40,000 today, was claimed by Smith. The man who had once been a schoolmate of Turpin would now receive the bounty for his capture. With Turpin's identity confirmed, a reward of £200, around £40,000 today, was claimed by Smith. The man who had once been a schoolmate of Turpin would now receive the bounty for his capture. There were some questions about where Dick Turpin's trial should take place. You see, the Duke of Newcastle, one of the powerful men of the time, wanted the trial to happen in London, but in the end, it was held at York Assizes. The trial began on March 22, 1739, just 3 days after the Winter Assizes opened. The charges: Turpin was accused of stealing 3 horses, a mare worth £3, a foal worth 20 shillings, and a gelding worth another £3. But here's the catch. The crime didn't even happen where they said it did. The thefts allegedly took place in Welton, but the actual location was Heckington, and the date was wrong, too. The crimes occurred back in August of 1738, not in March of 1739. Despite these mistakes, the trial proceeded. The trial was presided over by Sir Whitechapel, a respected judge in his 60s. The prosecution was led by King's Counsel Thomas Place and Richard Crowell, while the proceedings were recorded by a local resident, Thomas Kill. Now, here's an interesting detail. Dick Turpin didn't have a defense barrister. Back then, defending yourself in court was expensive, and most people accused of felonies couldn't afford a lawyer. In this case, the presiding judge, Sir Whitechapel, would look after Turpin's interests. During the trial, 7 witnesses testified, including Thomas Creasy, the man whose horses were stolen, and James Smith, who recognized Turpin's handwriting. When asked to respond to Creasy, Turpin said, "I cannot say anything, for I have not any witnesses come this day, as I have expected, and therefore beg of your lordship to put off my trial, till another day." When asked about James Smith, Turpin denied knowing him, but when questioned about the stolen horses, he claimed he had bought him from an innkeeper near Heckington. He also repeated his story about why he used the name Palmer. He said it was his mother's maiden name, but when asked for his real name, Turpin simply replied, "Turpin." The jury didn't take long. Without leaving the courtroom, they declared Turpin guilty of stealing the mare and foal. After further deliberations, he was also found guilty of stealing the gelding. Before sentencing him, Judge Chappell asked Turpin if he had any reason why he shouldn't be sentenced to death. Turpin replied, "It is very hard upon me, my lord, because I was not prepared for my defense." The judge wasn't having it. He snapped back, "Why was you not? You knew the time of the assizes as well as any person here." Despite Turpin's claims that he was told the trial would be in Essex, Judge Chappell wasn't moved. He replied, "Whoever told you so were highly to blame, and as your country have found you guilty of a crime worthy of death, it is my office to pronounce sentence against you." And with that, Dick Turpin was sentenced to death. His fate was sealed. Before his execution, Turpin wasn't exactly hiding away in fear. In fact, he frequently received visitors. The jailer, who kept him locked up, was even said to have made a small fortune, earning £100 by selling drinks to Turpin and his guests. But despite the socializing, Turpin rejected any attempts to make peace with his past. One local clergyman offered Turpin serious remonstrances and admonitions, hoping to save his soul, but Turpin wasn't interested in a sermon. He turned him away. However, it seems his father still cared. A letter dated March 29, urging Turpin to beg for God's forgiveness, was sent. The letter suggested that even the thief on the cross received forgiveness at the last hour. As the days ticked down, Turpin wasn't exactly acting like a man on death's door. In fact, he bought himself a new frock coat and shoes, and in an unusual move, He even hired 5 mourners for a fee of £3.10. It was his way of preparing for what was to come. On April 7, 1739, the day of his execution arrived. Turpin, alongside a fellow criminal named John Stead, was taken through the streets of York in an open cart. As they made their way to Knavesmire, the location of the gallows, Turpin did something that stunned the crowd. He bowed to the spectators, he was unfazed, and his bravado would become legendary. Turpin climbed the ladder to the gallows, seemingly unbothered by the fate awaiting him. There was, however, a strange tradition in York. The city didn't have a permanent hangman. Instead, the prisoner could earn a pardon if he agreed to act as the executioner. On this occasion, the pardon went to fellow highwayman, Thomas Hadfield. Turpin stood tall, despite feeling a nervous tremor in his right leg. As he mounted the ladder, he spoke briefly to the executioner. Then, in a show of defiance, he threw himself off the ladder. His death was quick, but the method of hanging was brutal. The short drop method meant Turpin would die by strangulation, a slow and painful process. He remained hanging there until late afternoon, before his body was cut down and taken to a tavern in Castlegate. But what happened next is one of the most bizarre twists in Turpin's story. The very next morning, Turpin's body was stolen. Body snatching was a common practice at the time. As cadavers were in high demand for medical research, authorities may have turned a blind eye to it, but the public was less forgiving. A mob quickly apprehended the thieves, who were caught with Turpin's corpse. To ensure his body wouldn't be taken again, Turpin's corpse was reportedly reburied in quicklime. The final resting place of Dick Turpin is said to be in St. George's Church graveyard in Fishergate, but some still question if that's really where he lies. And so, the infamous highwayman's story came to an end, though his legend has lived on for centuries. From defiant last moments to a stolen corpse, Turpin's death was as strange as his life. What do you think? Was Turpin a hero, a villain, or simply a man of his time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, subscribe, and so you don't miss our next video.